Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 40 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. In this episode, we are going to discuss Accurizing Factory Rifles and the difference between entry-level custom rifles and custom rifles made today. So this is going to several emails and some phone calls we've had with some customers since the Great American Outdoor Show, and I thought it would be a great topic to discuss. Probably because the main reason is a lot of it has to do with why we got into this business in the first place. So without further ado, thank you for joining us, and here we go. All right, so we had a couple great questions from customers that had visited us at the Great American Outdoor Show, as well as some emails and phone calls and conversations we've had over the last 2 weeks. And we're going to break this down into 2 segments. The first segment we're going to talk about here is about Accurizing Factory Rifles. So Accurizing Factory Rifles. This is one of those areas that we get a regular question on maybe a couple times a month or a couple phone calls we'll get here and there. This is also something that we actually discuss at the Long Range Shooting School, not in huge depth, but more so as a warning to customers about going this route, the pros and cons of it, and what you should do before you even think about having it done, in the end, to try to save you some money. So we were at the Great American Outdoor Show, and one of the vendors there I noticed, I've known him for a long time. He is a gunsmith. I don't have... I don't want to say anything terrible, but I want to be honest. I don't have a lot of respect for the work that he does, as well as how he sort of sells it to the customer. And so I noticed that at the Great American Outdoor Show, he had a lot of factory accurizing packages that he was selling. And I could see the people and hear him talking about what it would do. And I think in a lot of ways it sells hope to the customers that they can take the investment of a factory rifle and sort of turn it into something that's going to be that once-in-a-lifetime or keeper rifle. And in a lot of ways, for me to be completely open and honest, it's snake oil being sold by the guy in the covered wagon riding through town. There is so much dishonesty when people get into that if they don't do it the right way. And I have to be honest with you that even in a lot of the gunsmithing schools, they teach this as a very highly profitable thing to do or to sell to the customers because it's not accurizing as you would think in the processes that are done. And there's always this get out of jail free card or a back door that they can wiggle through and say, well, it might be something just completely with the action or the barrel itself's no good. So they can do all of this work and you see little to no improvement. Or it's the placebo effect, and you just shoot a little bit better because you believe the rifle's capable of it, and that happens sometimes too. But here's the deal with this, and I don't want to dwell on this too long, but at the same time, a lot of this is why I got into gunsmithing and building my own rifles, because this is out there a lot. So right out of the gate, if you have a factory rifle, and it's a great way to start to get into long-range shooting. I've shot lots of Tikkas and Seikos and Savages, and through the years of my life, I've probably shot about every rifle we can think of, and they are actually very good rifles for the money that you spend. Believe it or not, they're good rifles. Here's the problem with the sales pitch that they give you when they say they're going to accurize your factory rifle is they're going to take a Pacific Tool and Gauge crowning tool that goes into a Black & Decker drill bit. They're going to run it into the end of your muzzle and make it all shiny and look new again. They might put lapping compound on the back of your lugs, lap your lugs completely inappropriately just to make them shiny, to make it feel like you've done something. And they might go in and polish the chamber, do something silly to make it look shiny, whatever they do. But they're going to charge you $800 to $1,800. And something that might take them 30 minutes to hand it back to you. It's super highly profitable, and in the end, you wind up with a rifle that probably shoots no better, and in some cases can shoot worse because The tool that they're using to cut the crown is not a single point cut. It's not cutting a razor sharp crown. It's not perfectly true and concentric to the bore. You're just getting a quick fix shoe polish finish on it that makes it look like something was done. So accurizing a factory rifle isn't about fixing or getting your rifle to shoot great that doesn't shoot great now. Accurizing really started about taking an accurate rifle and making it shoot a little bit more consistently better. So if you're accurizing a rifle, you're actually starting to work on an accurate rifle to begin with. And this is what we talk about at the school. If you have a brand new rifle out of the box, we tell customers this all the time. Don't go and take it to the local smith and have him do all of this work. The reason being is there could be things potentially wrong with the rifle that, regardless of the work that he does, isn't going to change anything. So if you have a rifle that you like a lot and you're thinking about maybe having it quote-unquote accurized, the first thing to do is go out and shoot it and make sure it's a good to great shooting rifle to start with, because the things that they're doing aren't going to correct a lot of the things that make these rifles shoot poorly. You have to start with a good to great shooting rifle, and if it's one of those rifles, wow, this is a pretty good shooting rifle. I like this rifle a lot. Then at that point, accurizing it is going to help it shoot a little bit more consistently better than it would without doing it. So what you're going to do is you're going to have a real gunsmith put it in a lathe and dial into less than a tenth or so on the lands and grooves and cut with a tool in the lathe, single point, a crown, a real crown that's perfectly true and concentric to the bore, razor sharp edges, no dings and dents, and certainly not done with an adapter that goes into a Black & Decker drill bit that's shoved in the end of your muzzle. By the way, that technique is actually taught at some gunsmithing colleges. So it is. We got the sales pitch here with these quote-unquote accurizing tools that are all done with your action in a vise. So they'll break the action off and they'll run this tool in, and it makes your thread shiny, and they'll run another tool in and they'll touch the face of this, and then they'll run another tool in and touch the face of that. But it's done with hand tools and drill bits or drills, and it's not cutting anything concentric or true or fixing it. It's just repolishing surfaces and making them look all nice and shiny and handing it back to the customer with a 20-minute investment and charging them $400, $500, $600. And then on top of that, you get into the other parts with the crown. So if I can give you some words of advice, number one, never even consider doing it without a rifle you haven't shot first, because if it's a poor shooting rifle, don't waste any more money on that rifle. Get rid of it and get something that actually shoots pretty well that you're happy with. Then at that point, you have to weigh out the pros and cons. How much increased accuracy are you going to get with accurizing a factory rifle? A lot of times it's measurable, but probably not by much, and in most shooters' hands, they can't shoot well enough to see the difference. That said, if it's a damaged crown, for example, and you think that might help, well, then, of course, having a gunsmith cut a real crown, which should cost about $135, done in a lathe. So the rifle has to be completely torn down, put in a lathe, dialed in perfectly true, and then cut with a single point tooling, not with a Black & Decker drill. That will help if it's damaged, but start with a great shooting rifle, and accurizing is for accurate rifles only. So if the rifle is a good to great shooter already, then you can do these things, and that will help just increase that consistency and the level of accuracy and maybe improve the accuracy even slightly better. But it will not make a poor shooting rifle shoot well. And so snake oil, buyer's alert, whatever you want to call it, when these guys are selling this, what they're selling you is hope that you can throw money at this problem, that it's a factory rifle and it might not be shooting well and it'll go away. And in the end, it's really about how they manufacture the rifle and the expectations of the potential accuracy of the rifle to begin with. It's never going to be a rifle that's shooting 2-inch groups at 600 yards. Those rifles aren't designed to do that. So just buyers beware. He makes a fortune doing it, and kudos to him for being a good businessman. But on the same token, we get a lot of the rifles here. We don't actually bring any in anymore. When customers call and say, "Hey, I had all this work done to my rifle and it's not shooting well, can you take a look at it?" And the first thing I ask them is who worked on it. And they give me the customer's name, and I said, I'm sorry, we don't do that here anymore. And we won't critique or look at any other rifle that was made or worked on by any other gunsmith. We just don't want to get involved in the middle of it. But every year, selling it and wow, I can take my rifle and just throw $800 on it rather than build a custom rifle or really, have it done professionally by like a gunsmith considered like Gordy Gritters. Gordy could take a Remington 700 and true it flawlessly and sleeve bolts flawlessly, and in a lathe cut the lugs and the face of the action perfectly straight and true, not with adapters, done with a drill. And this is what we used to do, and what got me into building custom rifles was all of these things. There was no fixes for it other than just learning how to be a great machinist and dial in and cut these parts the way that you want them to be cut. And then you had to open up the bolt bore raceway, true it up to the bolt body. Then you had to sleeve the bolts, which is adding metal to the bolt and then machining it perfectly straight and true in reference to the bolt face and the back of the lugs. And this used to take 3 to 5 days to do an action. And I built some great shooting rifles doing this in a lathe with 3 to 5 days of labor involved in it. The problem is it's very low return on the investment. It still isn't a custom action. It's still never going to be a bad action. It doesn't hold a real great resale value to you when you sell it because, let's just face it, everybody has an Accurized rifle. And so the definition is just all over the place, from Black & Decker drills to people like myself and Gordy Gritters who could go in and actually do a great job and build a great shooting rifle. So we decided that we want to stay away from that, the sunk cost bias, or you keep throwing more money at it, but the potential is that you're going to invest just as much money till it's all said and done doing a Remington 700 than if you were to buy a bat and everything made the way it's supposed to be from scratch. So ask the right questions. Be careful when people are offering this quick fix. It can help, and in some cases, like we talked about, with an accurate rifle, it can certainly help increase the accuracy a little bit, as well as the consistency in the accuracy. So you want that rifle to shoot that way every day, all day, and that's sort of the reason why you're doing it. But rarely will it ever make a average or poor shooting rifle shoot better or great. It's just throwing good money after bad. To go one step further than that, is we had a customer we were talking to this week, and he had asked this question. There's a lot of custom rifles out there that are coming on the market that are quote-unquote PRS quality. I guess they can still fall under factory parameters, but it's basically a $2,000 to $2,500 rifle. And if you buy it under this from a custom rifle builder, you can sneak into factory class, whatever that modified class is, and shoot a better quality rifle than what everybody else is shooting. So you can sort of game the system. And you see a lot of these rifles coming on the market. It sort of started last year. Don't want to throw out any names. You can do your research and find them on your own. And the customer would ask, well, what makes the difference between a rifle like yours where you're getting into, $4,200 to $5,000 compared to a $2,000, $2,500 rifle, and then compare that to a factory rifle? And so my answer is pretty straightforward, is the rifles that you're buying at that price point of $2,000 to $2,500 are nothing but really expensive, inefficiently made factory rifles that will potentially cut your issues that you could have with the less expensive factory rifles in half. So the truth of the matter is you're still going to have half the problems that you normally would have with a factory rifle. They're still there. It's just now it's done in a much more inefficient manner, to where the price is only higher because they can't make it at scale to keep the cost down like the big manufacturers can do. So let me explain this a little bit further. And I'm not ditching on these rifles, but again, I sort of think they fall into that category of, it's a little bit of snake oil in this one. You think you're getting a custom rifle, and in some ways you are. It's custom built, right? But you're not getting that last step that, they say 80% of your effort's wasted. It's the last 20% that makes the world difference, especially when it makes making custom rifles. I believe that. It's you have to do 100% of the work to get to 20% that makes the difference between a good shooting rifle and a great shooting rifle. If you skip any of that and you only do 80% of the work, the potential is that you'll lose that special one thing that made that rifle go from good to great. So when you take these rifles in this class, which I think it's a race to the bottom, is, number one, a lot of them are using button rifle barrels. We won't build using button rifle barrels. There's reasons why, but they are using less expensive barrels. They're also using actions that the only reason they cost as much as they do is because they can't produce them at the efficiency and the level that someone like Remington, so they're more expensive. But it's no better than a Remington 700 or a Savage Action that you can buy off the shelf. Really, there's very little difference in the end quality or the accuracy of the potential rifle. To explain it a little bit better, like you take a custom action builder that's building these or supplying these actions for this level of rifle, they're saying in this factory class of 2 to 2,500. You have a custom action maker that's making 20 actions a day. Well, the reason those actions cost as much as they do, keeping that price of the rifle in that $2,000 to $2,500 price range, is because they don't make 2,000 or 10,000 a day. It's the efficiency of the system that Remington and Savage and all of them have that allow them to produce the massive volume at scale to drive the price down to get in that $700, $800, $900, $1,100, $1,200 price range. But the quality is almost the same. The only thing you're paying for different in that other action is it's just an inefficient way to make it. They can't make them in volume, so you're paying through the nose for their inefficiencies in making it. And we're talking about the inefficiencies of them making the action compared to a completed $800 to $1,200 rifle. So we're just talking about the action compared now to a completed rifle that cost $800 to $1,200 in the completed rifle itself. The same thing goes on when you get into the barrel. So let's think about it here. We're trying to make a custom rifle in a $2,000 price range using methods that are completely inefficient when it comes to major manufacturing. And so there's only two ways to do it. You either cut quality or you raise prices. So they've pigeonholed this price range, and then we talk about barrels. So there are lots of inexpensive barrels that you can have made that are sort of custom barrels in the sense that they are not made by Remington or Savage or so on and so forth. But again, the same rule applies. The reason that Remington can produce an entire rifle for, let's just say, $800 to $1,200, which I find amazing, actually. I really do find it amazing that you can get a rifle made in that price range when you really think about everything that's involved in making it. But that's because they're making 600,000 barrels plus a year. That's amazing. I mean, we're talking about 50,000 barrels to 60,000 barrels a month. So their efficiency allows them to produce that quality of barrel and keep the price down in a price that a customer can truly afford, which is fantastic. But what you're paying for when you get into that price range of quote-unquote custom rifles and trying to compete in factory class is you're either getting rifle barrels that cost more but probably are of the same quality of a Ruger or Remington or Savage barrel, but because their efficiency is so terrible, they're not making them in the volumes of these big companies. It's just simply the price is higher. But they're still cheaper than a cut rifle quality barrel, say, for example, from Krieger. So they're going with a less expensive, quote-unquote, custom barrel that's probably of the same quality as a good factory barrel. And then you have the errors that can happen when they chamber it. Of course, they're making these things and trying to break this barrier, so they're going to chamber it as quickly and efficiently as possible. Same thing with the crown, all of the other parts and pieces. And in the end, you wind up with a rifle that, quote-unquote, is a custom rifle, and it looks like a custom rifle, but probably performs about the same as a really good quality factory rifle. The other part with this, too, is when you get into the factory stocks compared to, these custom rifles, quote-unquote, with these stocks that they're supplying them with. And these stocks are in the $300-$400 price range, some of them a little bit more. For us as consumers. but they're not able to keep the price down like Ruger Precision Rifle is, where they're making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of stocks and keeping the price down, but they're of about the same quality. And just because they're the number one stock in whatever competition doesn't mean that means they're the number one quality stock either. In a lot of these cases, it's the number one given away stock to the people who are placing and winning. So this is advertising and marketing 101 to put yourself at the top simply by getting top level shooters your product to place with. And so you have to be careful on that as well. So to wrap up the podcast, and really what we're trying to say is, when you get into factory rifles, you have a certain level of expectation of what these rifles can do, and they do a fantastic job. I mean, it's absolutely amazing the quality of these factory rifles now and their capabilities compared to what they were 30, 40, 50 years ago. They would almost be considered bench rest quality. But be careful. There's a lot of salesmen out there that give you the pitch to Accurize it, and you're going to turn it into this custom rifle by them using Black & Decker tools and really charging you an outrageous price for really is what a joke behind the scenes by the majority of them. Not all of them. There are some gunsmiths that will tear the rifle down completely and put it in a lathe properly and do the work with good expectations, but usually those gunsmiths will ask you, is it a great shooting rifle before they touch it? If those gunsmiths really care about giving you a quality product, they're going to weed out the rifles that have issues that all the things that they're about to do aren't or probably won't fix or get rid of the problem. You can't fix a poor shooting rifle with doing these accurizing techniques. Accurizing is for an accurate rifle to start with. So the gunsmith will usually ask you those questions and weed out those rifles. Now, we don't do any of that here anymore, just simply because we know that the difference there is to what we're trying to do, and we've corrected a lot of the things that create the bad rifles or the bad shooting rifles to begin with, and with everything that we do with the action itself, with the ace and the barrels that we use and why. But just be careful. I find it on a personal level, I feel that if you're going to give the customer something and you're asking them to spend their hard-earned money on something, that you should be open and honest and give them the product that you're selling them and explain to them the pros and cons of what can happen, what might not happen, and really go over and review their rifle or what their rifle may or may not be doing at the time to sort out the problems and not just do the job and say, well, it must be something wrong with the action, or their action must be something wrong with the entire barrel. There's nothing else we can do. Worst case scenario, they give the customer their money back, but at the same time, how much time and effort that you've put in at the range and frustration. And so just be careful. I find that there's a lot of profiteering going on in that market. It's quick, easy money. And again, it's selling hope to a customer that, here, you throw this money at this problem and we may make it go away, and you're going to have a custom rifle with a factory rifle, or you're going to have a custom quality rifle while using a factory rifle. And that just simply isn't the case. And the same thing goes going one step above that. And the customer that I was referring to had asked, what's the difference between a $2,000 and $2,500 rifle now at this entry-level top class dollar mark that keeps you in factory class and your rifles? And it's everything. And the only difference between that rifle at that price point and the factory rifle is the fact that it's just completely made in efficiency. If they were able to make those rifles at the efficiency level that Remington and Ruger and Savage can operate, they would be $800 rifles. The only reason they're $2,000 and $2,400 is they just can't operate at that efficiency level yet. And you're winding up with the same quality, quote unquote, barrel, just paying a little more for it. And you're winding up with an action that's, slightly better than a Remington. I don't know, probably not. I mean, we've measured a lot of them here that had the same slop and only one lug contacting. I mean, this is what happens when you manufacture. And if you take into account that they're doing it at least efficient as possible, and they're trying to stay profitable, so it's easy for them to shortcut things or not do everything exactly the way it's supposed to be done. And again, when you compare that to a custom rifle, I say this about everything in life is, if you do 80% of the effort to get a job done, you could still wind up as a complete failure in whatever you're working on, whether it's building a house or a career or going to college or whatever you're working on in life. It's that last 20% or that last 10% of that 100% effort that really makes most of the difference. And in order for you to see that, it's that last 20% that really makes you successful. 80% of your effort will leave you at average on everything, and a lot of times leave you as a failure. It's the last 20% of the effort that you're putting in that will make you successful. It's that last 10%, that last little bit going from 90 to 100% commitment and doing everything right and making sure it's right that makes everything worthwhile. It's that missing piece. It's only 20% of your effort that truly makes from average to outstanding. But you got to do 100% of the effort to get that magic 20%. If you skip, forego, or miss, or sacrifice anything and start dropping from that 100% commitment to perfection, then that 1 or 2% that you shortcut in one area could just crash you right back down to average on everything. And so it's the last 20% that will make you successful. And I think that commitment to doing 100% of the effort to get that last 20% is key. And that's where you get into these custom rifles. There's no shortcuts. There's no speeding up the processes. There's no finding faster and more efficient ways because you're trying to race against the clock to increase your profit margins. There is right, and then there's everything else. And if you want to hold that line and have perfection in your product, then you can't sacrifice any of it. I find that, even like with everyone we deal with, when we go back to these barrels that some of these companies will use to get into this price point, is they can be using what we call B barrels, or barrels that were made by custom manufacturers that didn't make the grade to be sold on the open market as their custom barrels. And because they know that they're going to go into a less expensive rifle. So Krieger does not sell any barrels that do not make the grade, but that's not true with all of them. So you have a custom barrel maker that could be saying, oh, well, this one isn't quite perfect, but it's still pretty dang good. It goes over here in this pile. And then eventually that pile gets sold off to a company that, hey, we need less expensive barrels because we're trying to produce this price point in a rifle. Well, here we go. We can save you $100 a barrel, and they'll probably shoot just as good. Well, is that what you're really paying for? Just as good? Probably just as good. And the word probably is going to be attached to that. So be careful with your hard-earned money. And I always say this, I think this is really important to throw out there. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I worked, 2 and 3 jobs my whole life. I remember being a poor police officer when diapers, daycare, and formula took priority over shooting. It's just that stage of life where you're young and, you're working your butt off. And at that point, I even owned a small business, and my shooting budget was a very, very tiny portion of the income that was coming in because we had other priorities in life. And that's really is just simply how it goes. And what I'm trying to throw out there is, if, depending on where you're at in your stage in life, just be careful that somebody doesn't hook you with a sales pitch to dump in a lot of excessive money into a factory rifle, promising these things that probably isn't going to live up to your expectations. And then also the guys that are trying to pitch out these entry-level custom rifles, the difference in these entry-level custom rifles, in my honest, humble opinion, is the fact that they're just factory rifles made totally inefficiently and cost a lot more money than they should. And, I personally would rather see you buy a really good Ruger precision rifle, a really good Tikka, even a great Savage, with a good stock on it. There's in the factory world, there's getting to be a lot of really good quality stocks being put on some of the rifles, and there's a lot of really good aftermarket stocks that will make a huge difference. And I personally think that would be a better investment than having someone do their magic, quote unquote, wizardry on your rifle for $800 to $1,600, and in the end get really nothing out of it that's measurable. So if you're in that stage in life, be careful. There's just a lot of marketing and sales pitch and hype that's really designed to make you feel like you're getting something more than what you are, making it seem like it's a really good investment. If I can just bump up to this, I'll have a custom rifle and not be shooting a factory rifle. Well, they really can throw a lot of money into these potential fixes of problems, and in the end, keep throwing more money at it because, well, you've already got $2,000 invested in this Remington. I'm not going to stop now. I'm not going to, no, let's take it to another gunsmith and have something else done to it because now I've got $2,500 into it. So you get this thing called sunk cost bias that can happen where you start putting more and more money into the rifle and you're not getting any more results out of it. But because you have so much invested in it, you don't want to stop. Same thing can happen with these entry-level custom rifles. Is you take it back and maybe have a new crown put on or have a quote-unquote pre-fit barrel put on it, and maybe that'll help, a different barrel menu. So you start throwing more and more and more money at it. And in the end, you wind up spending dang near as much as if you would have bought a real custom rifle and had no stress or problems right out of the gate. What we try to do to make it a little bit more affordable here, and not that these custom rifles are super affordable, they're not. They're very expensive in every aspect of making them to assembly. But we require a 50% deposit. The balance isn't due until the rifle is completed. Each one is sort of spec'd out to the customer exactly how they want it, and each one is designed to deliver. And we can say this with some pride that. So we can say this, just because of how much attention we paid to the details when we build these rifles, is that we've not had one come back ever, and so our success rate isn't 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 5 or 90 out of 100, and we've got 10 unhappy customers out of 100 that the rifles did not perform. That's not what we do at this level of rifle building. Our goal is to hand the customer a rifle that is what it's supposed to be, that will shoot the way it's supposed to shoot, and that the rifle is going to allow the customer to enjoy this hobby that they love to do, and a lot of times not be the limiting factor to their learning or their ability to stretch out the distance or shoot smaller groups or to go out and compete. Now at this point, the only thing they have to do is learn and grow as a shooter and learn to use that rifle to its fullest abilities. And that's really what we're trying to do. So I hope I addressed the questions in an open, honest answer that may offend some people and really upset some people in the industry, but there's nothing else that I can personally do other than be honest in my opinions. In the end, I just want to protect that, say that you work really hard for your money, and I know the value of $1. Been there, done that. And I would rather see you take and put that money into your shooting fund to put more ammunition through the rifle and go out and enjoy yourself than to start throwing a lot of excess money at a problem that might not go away. Just some updates on the shooting schools for 2020. We have 5 slots left for our May classes. So our May long-range shooting school, 3-day shooting school. We have 5 slots left for the entire month of May. June is completely full, and we'll start taking reservations for our July class. And we have 1 class that we're going to hold in July. Looking forward to have you all there. Also, if you would like to attend, if you've been through our long-range shooting school and you'd like to attend our King of the Mountain Level 3 course or some of our Level 2 advanced courses, love to have you. You can register for all of that online. And then new for 2020, being that we just got back from the Great American Outdoor Show, I thought this was something to throw out there, that we are going to bring back the private long-range shooting classes. And so it is going to be a Level 1 / quote-unquote Level 2 class, depending on if you want a 1-day or 2-day class back-to-back. This will be for the individuals that would either like to come for a private day of instruction, and we can hold up to 4 students. So if you have somebody that you shoot with a lot and you would like to come through together, you can register right online. Let us know if it's going to be a 1 or 2-day event back-to-back, and then we can sort of critique the curriculum to meet what you're trying to work on at the school here. The school is designed to shoot one of our custom rifles, and so if you already own one of our custom rifles, you may bring it. If you're not a Wolf Precision custom rifle owner yet and still would like to attend the course, the rifles are included at no charge. The only thing you'll pay for is the cost of the ammunition that you'll shoot, so it's already worked in. We're going to give you the rifle to use while you're here, and then you're going to enjoy the class and just pay for the ammunition that you use. All the rifles are suppressed, so one of the reasons for this policy is we want to make sure that all the rifles here at the school are suppressed. So any custom rifle that we've ever built Our suppressors can be, if you don't own one, can be rented, and you can run a suppressor for 2 days, or you can shoot one of our school rifles with one of our suppressors on it. Again, looking forward to have everybody come through. It's a great way to come through for small groups. We have some small businesses that would like to do small 2, 3, and 4 person groups as incentives to different programs that they're running or giveaways. And then we schedule this at your convenience. So we can schedule this anytime through the first week of October through the summer. So just reach out to us here. You can call us or email us, or you can get more information on our website at Wolf Precision. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us here at the show. Thank you so much for all of you that have reached out with great questions, as well as sending even just really kind emails out, finding the podcast and enjoying some of the content. If you have some stuff that you would like us to talk about here in the future, or you have some questions that we can cover here on the show, send us an email. It's at contact@wolfprecision.net. And my name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you're listening to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.